I'm Ivan Kravtsov. I'm an Osint analyst at Social Links, and today we will be covering the potential use cases of open source intelligence and automated open source intelligence tools, the industrial kind, in financial investigations. We're not going to go into the specific subject matter areas. We're going to be more in the context of the application. So from our understanding here, which is derived from one of the Deloitte documents, the life cycle of any kind of financial crime in the context of investigating it can be split into the stages of monitoring and testing, investigation and remediation, prevention and detection, and further compliance. Those are the areas of relevance for open source intelligence practice, where tooling can be implemented, and it is necessary in the context of 2023 to implement it, of course. That includes due diligence, that includes the processes of anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism, that includes the processes of regulatory compliance, that includes instances of corporate misgovernance, that includes anything related to the cryptocurrency aspect. And a very interesting area of research right now is the subject of subversive crimes. So this sophisticated kind of criminal activities where large major organized crime groups are intertwined within their activity with white-collar professionals, law enforcement, and government officials. From our understanding right now, in the context of 2023 and further, what is reasonable is a 360-degree approach to studying all of those different kinds of entities and all of those different kinds of contexts from the perspectives of the people, the groups of people, the organizations in a wide sense of the word, and the assets, which can also be different. Now, specifically for those of you who are new to being familiar with us, with our company, with our activities, and with our software, we'll give a brief intro into how this product works and how the automation of gathering data within Osint can work as well. One of the possible references of why this is important could be this reference to a time study done by Booz Allen Hamilton, where we can see that a very large chunk of the analyst's time is taken up by collecting the data. And a significantly smaller one is the structuring part. And the most important part the most important part just takes up 10%. And the meaning of automated industrial solutions, or semi-automated ones, better to say, I suppose, is to shift the weight from gathering data to actually further analyzing and investigating it. So now we have several inputs on the level of an individual. Several kinds of categories of data: the known related companies, the known personal identifiers, leaked data, which can be found in various kinds of sources, and known personal affiliations. So we'll start with a traditional simple example with a phone number, where here we see a number of methods that can be applied. And we can perform a second-degree automation of those methods and put those inside a script, which would be called a machine within this specific kind of interface, this kind of software. So right now we're looking for everything that can tell us more about the individual in terms of the messengers, the apps, the social media that they're using, the accounts that they have, and the data that is publicly exposed about them. So far, this gives us accounts within Foursquare, Skype, and Telegram. a string containing a Facebook ID and the related company and the location, which was actual at the time of this data being scraped, and the fact of an account existing within Twitter. So now from this further, we can deepen each of the directions and subdirections. For instance, getting the general overall details and the social network of the individual within the context of a particular platform. Or running our facial recognition to see where else this individual might be present within the full spectrum of social media. We can do the same kind of iterations from personal names as well. And from the company names. An email address or an IP address can also be a valid input in terms of starting gathering the data. So as you can see, having automated this in terms of using specific search methods for specific sources, and having done this to a second degree by putting those methods in a certain logical sequence within a script, within just a few minutes, we've gathered a substantial part of the digital footprint of the individual, which includes their accounts within Skype, Foursquare, and Telegram, from which in some instances we can go deeper and get potentially the groups and historical data related to the account. Their account within Facebook with the general details extracted. Accounts within LinkedIn. The Instagram ones could be false positives, could be people trying to impersonate this individual for whatever reason. Open corporates records related to the two companies that we've input here, their related physical addresses, and some data about the people from the social set of the individual. One of the directions here intersecting with our input person of interest in terms of the stated university and stated company within their respective LinkedIn profiles. From the email itself, in the second instance, we can see that we've got the Google ID, we've got an IP address with the use of the social links identity search engine. And we've got the account within Skype and the fact of accounts existing registered with this email within platforms such as Discord and Tumblr. So we're also going to reference in some of the subcontexts the real cases of the customers that work with us already. This is a depersonalized logical schema of one that they've shared with us recently, where the organization has been requested to conduct in-depth due diligence by a sovereign wealth fund of a Middle Eastern country for them to make an informed investment decision into in the context of a certain company, which required a deeper level of understanding of their current and former shareholders. In the context of the specific task at hand, the software that you've seen at work just now was instrumental in getting to a no answer, which could be called an eliminative approach, which has taken much less time than the approach that they've relied on previously, where the goal was to get a yes. 48 hours as opposed to several weeks, which eventually saved the time and money for the customer and resulted in their further retained cooperation. So the second feature example that we're going to show now is gathering the data about a certain organizational entity through corporate registries. So first, we input the company name, and we run queries into several of the sources that could be used for this. In the context of the United Kingdom, this can be the British Companies House. In the context of jurisdictions worldwide, this can be open corporates. And in the context of certain island jurisdictions or troublesome entities, this can be Sanctions Explorer and Offshore Leaks, which we will go to in a few minutes. So now we extract the stated physical address and officers of the entity, and from each of those, we further get their appointments and companies with significant control. I can see that there are some questions in the chat. We're going to address those closer to the end of the session, and thank you for the questions. So this is what could be called a corporate social graph. So there are several officers that have more intersections in the context of this company and in secondary companies. So second degree connections, which we can see here. And from those, we can pivot further by applying the same methods that we applied for the initial first input. In the context of the other sources, one of the use cases could be the research related to an organization being registered within locations such as Luxembourg or Switzerland or the United Kingdom. having actual backers, actual owners, and beneficiaries from other jurisdictions. As in this example here with Letter 1 Holdings SA, which was mentioned in this Financial Times article. And we take the name of the beneficiary and we run that query into Open Corporates, Sanctions Explorer, and Offshore Leaks. The Offshore Leaks output gives us a number of entities, including another individual with the same family name, with this registered physical address, and with several offshore entities. The Sanctions Explorer output gives us those person objects, the properties of which tell us whether the individual is currently, well, any kind of individual with that specific name under active sanctions. If so, what is the program? When was the latest update on the source? And what is the sanctioning authority? From each of the outputs, the URLs to the results are available and can be extracted and further accessed from this graph. Another customer case that we're going to reference here would be an instance of successful asset recovery, where a former business partner of their client who was found guilty of fraudulent activity in the United States has obtained control of and refused to return the access to an online wallet. We're talking about cryptocurrency here, with a substantial amount of funds, several $1 million belonging to the customer. So the analysts, which were requested to do this, have used numerous sources available within certain kinds of software, including ours. And the instrumental thing was the Social Links Inner database, also called the Social Links Identity Search Engine, where by running those searches against several aliases and several instances of personal data of the person of interest, they've managed to find a string that contained a particular password to an email address of the POI from the MGM Grand Resorts leak, which matched successfully with the new password for the online wallet, which resulted in the successful recovery of funds for the customer of our customer. The cryptocurrency context is widely discussed and important in today's setting. And it's somewhat problematic if we're talking about working with large volumes of data to perform cryptocurrency investigations. So now we're going to show some instances of running automated methods on this. If, as the input, we have just an address, the first thing that we would need to do is form a transactional graph for further examination. So we get several wallet entities related to the address here. We see within the properties their balances, the counts of the transactions in terms of sendings and receivals, and the total throughput. We can see an Ethereum wallet, a Matic wallet, and a Binance Smart Chain wallet. Now, from each of those, we will ask for all the fund transfers. And for the Ethereum wallet specifically, we're going to use those methods, final destinations and initial sources, which bypass the whole transactional graph to get just that, the final destinations and the initial sources. Smart contract entities are also something with which it's possible to work within this extension. Now, from the transaction entities, we can get the general details and the transfers. And from the transfers, we further ask for the source and destination addresses. We can range the relevance of the entities within a certain data set by applying some of the viewlets or custom-made viewlets that are available in the sidebar here, such as sorting those by the diversity of descent, which will make the entities with with a wider spectrum of sources of incoming connections larger in size visually. Now, if we want to try to know more about the address, then we cannot limit ourselves just to cryptocurrency blockchain data, but also look for its various mentions in other sources, which could be, in some instances, dark web sources and resources such as Pastebin, and which can be social media. And also various niche platforms such as GitHub, for instance. In the cryptocurrency context, the other two relevant ones would also be Twitter and Telegram. So this gives us a number of tweets, a number of GitHub repositories listing this address in list of so-called whale addresses and the dark owl document entity. Now, from each of the pieces of content, we can further get its author within the context of Twitter. Also, entities such as used hashtags and mentioned profiles to get more insight into the context of this discussion, of any kind of discussion related to our input researched entity. Here we have a very filtered kind of transactional graph that is really meant to show the current state of affairs within the cryptocurrency world in general, and specifically the Bitcoin ecosystem, where we have a number of addresses attributed to various actors from several categories. Part of those are militant extremist groups. Part of those are known, some of them previously de-anonymized and arrested dark web vendors. Part of that is also law enforcement, part ransomware groups, and part legitimate exchanges. So the basic principle is that we can see the various interactions going on between the addresses themselves. And then we can go into more context by looking for related data within the full spectrum of available sources. And yes, one of our most recent integrations was a number of ChatGPT transforms for automating the work with large text massives. They are available in the standard Social Links Pro license for those of you who are already using our software. So you are welcome to try it in your cases. This graph here is not really focused on the context of the financial kinds of investigations, but is meant to illustrate the possibilities of applying an all-around approach in terms of working with various categories of data in various possible ways. So as the initial input here, we have this IP address, which is a Tor exit node. We see a number of GitHub repositories where it is featured. We see the net block, we see the ASN, and we see a number of SLDB records with seemingly throwaway usernames, all of them having a user agent property that looks very much like the Tor browser here, and all of them also having the property of registration date and the stated birthday of the user. Now we input an email address here and we run another search into several sources. SLDB comes up with another entity that has a similar kind of username, seemingly a throwaway one, with an email address, this one, and with an additional IP address. The first one is a Netherlands one. The second one is related to a city of Ulyanovsk within the Russian Federation. So further, that address is mentioned in several data breaches. This IP address was initially taken from a paste bin with a list of addresses, supposedly according to its software related to pedophile cases. And in the second one, there is an additional email address with the handle Nazi Dementieva 0187. 1987-01 is the stated birthday of the user within the SLDB agents, SLDB entities containing the user agents from which we initially found the second IP address. From that, we get a Google ID, which gives us a stated name written in Cyrillic, here reading as Kira Lukash. And from that name, we find a dark-held document and an SLDB entity containing a string with a phone number, getting us to a WhatsApp and Telegram account with the name Kirill, and a Facebook account with this strange-looking photograph of a child. So this is an illustration of how one can apply the various kinds of possible methods iterationally in sequence and in combination, including potentially the ones that are not considered standard for a specific use case to obtain more end data. So now my colleague is going to launch a brief poll. We highly encourage you to take part in it. And in a few minutes, we're going to start answering the questions from the Q&A. So now to your questions. What databases is this using for photos? I apologize if I missed it. The facial recognition methods, if that's what you were asking about, are based on us using our own proprietarily developed machine learning model on a number of a set of scraped images from various social media platforms to run those in the context of other social media platforms, which can make the analyst's life really more comfortable in terms of getting the full digital footprint of the person. Does the system have a capability to identify legal owners of shipping vessels? Not at the moment. In terms of vessels, so far, the closest to that we have is the capability to see whether a certain vessel, based on its name, is currently under active sanctions by any kind of authority, according to Sanctions Explorer. What is our interaction with ChatGPT? We are using ChatGPT for further automating the work with large text massives, which can be quite helpful, as you understand, in the context of numerous kinds of investigations. As there is a lot to see, especially when it is related to cryptocurrency transactions, is there a way to show a timeline movie? What I mean is to display the first transaction origin, then where it goes, then the next one, instead to have to follow arrow between circles. Thank you. So right now we've been showing this within the UI of Maltego, which doesn't have a timeline kind of dimension. If you're working with I2 Analyst Notebook, then yes, you can extract the timestamps from the properties of each object and then put those on a timeline connected to the related addresses. Did we use any specific scripts, and can it be made available for us too? If by scripts what you mean is what we initially referenced in terms of Maltego machines, then yes, we've used two for enriching a phone number and enriching an email address. And yes, if you're currently using Social Links Pro, then we'll be very glad to share with you a file containing the code for those machines. No, this is not run in the community edition. This is in the commercial version of Maltego. If you want to know the cost of a software package, then you can contact us via sales email, and then we can discuss your specific kind of agenda, your specific kind of use case, and then tailor our offering to your specific needs. How does one compile all the data into a concise report for the customers? After everything related to the analytical stage was conducted, you can leave just the most important data, the key points and the key connections, the key affiliations within a separate Maltego graph, and then export that in the format of PDF report, which will be machine generated. And that will reflect the full scope of the output of your investigations. Well, it's automated or semi-automated part, which does not mean that it would not be needed, of course, to write the analyst's own thoughts and an analytical conclusion. Can the investigator get call details of the phone number? As we're just working with publicly available information, then this is not part of something that we can provide. But if there is, for instance, in a law enforcement context, if there are call records between a large number of phone numbers, then those can be imported as a CSV table into the interface, and then you can enrich those phone numbers for social media accounts and messengers, and then cross-search for the full presence of the individual within the digital space and look for the various affiliations, first degree, second degree, and third degree that they might have with other people. Can we link individuals with bank accounts interested as we investigate suspects of fraud and money laundering? Not directly, not within the context of our software, but there are ways that we can help here. So if you would be interested to see how this integrates potentially into your workflow, then we'll be happy to schedule a one-to-one meeting with you and your team and discuss this in more specific, more tailored detail. Are we able to receive live alerts of suspects surface in a particular area being monitored? That is not currently part of our solution, but it is something that we're keeping in mind, and it is likely something that we will implement in the near future. What about using a social network account, e.g. Facebook account, as input for starting new investigation? Is it possible? Yes, certainly. We can actually go through this example now in live mode. So if we have just a Facebook account initially as an input, there are multiple methods that we can run against it. So if we're building a digital profile of an individual, then we can start by, of course, assessing their activity within a specific platform, or we can build a content-based social graph of the individual within the context of that platform. So everything that we've extracted now, those are the entities for the user's content, the content that they have interacted with, their friends, followers, and followees, and stated relatives, former colleagues, and people formerly studied with. So now we can extract just the details from the related personal accounts. And we can further go in depth into everything related to the various pieces of content related to the user. So that would mean getting the offer for each of those, because a lot of this content is something that they've been tagged in. Getting the commenters, getting the comments, getting the media, reactions, and reposts. So this can tell us, for instance, especially if the person is moderately active or more than moderately active within, well, you initially asked about Facebook, within Facebook or any other kind of social media platform, the principles of working with them would be very, very similar as we regularly outline. This can tell us what would be, who would be the most relevant people for potential further research within their individual social network as it is manifested on that specific platform. Based on how much they have interacted with the initial input person's content and vice versa, and whether they have anything else in common. The next level of depth for us in this context would be to extract more data from the comments under the content. So for each of those, we can get the offer, reactions, and replies, for instance. And all of this data resulting in us having run the methods in a certain sequence can be a basis for further filtering, further structuring, further examination and analysis. So now here we see that some entities seem to be potentially more relevant in the context of this Facebook content-based social graph than other ones, even with this data set not being fully representative, as we've been limiting the number of possible outputs to 12 resulting entities per query. How to research the company and links, who's following whom of the company's LinkedIn account. We can run this example live now in a minute. So now we're running the queries from the company's LinkedIn accounts. We're just asking for the details, but apart from that, we can get the company posts and current and past employees. And from each of the individual accounts, we can get their posting activities, their commenting and liking activities, and their known endorsers within LinkedIn. So for example, here within each of the LinkedIn post entities, it's possible to get the commenters' comments and reactions, and also get the summary and topics of the text with the previously mentioned ChatGPT transforms from recently. For Facebook, are we accessing accounts misconfigured where privacy is not set properly, or are we using something specific? Well, it depends on the definition of the accounts being misconfigured, of course. But yes, if the user has set their account to fully private, then we won't be able to extract as much data as from a publicly open account, because as mentioned, while this solution is powerful and universal, it does only work with publicly available information. The investigation starting by social media account is valid also by starting with a Telegram account. Yes, certainly. And after we're done with the LinkedIn example here, we can go to one of the previous graphs and show an example with Telegram. So here we can see the discussed topics within the posting. We can see the individual accounts that have commented or liked under certain posts. And depending on the context on which person or group of people we're more interested in, we can go into more data about them specifically. So we can see here, for instance, that two of those individuals state to be based in one same location, and that one of them with another individual has previously worked in two past places, one of them Credit Suisse and the other one Barclays. Now to the point of Telegram. There are two ways that we can go around this. One is a solution that we provide just to law enforcement and government customers. And another one is the standard one, which can still give you the Telegram profile connected to a certain phone, extract the alias and Telegram ID from that profile, and further run searches based on that, and also run searches from keywords and for community names. Here, from this profile, we've extracted the entities previously posted by them and the groups that the account is present in. For each of those groups, it's possible to get their current and historical admins and owners. Again, this specific kind of functionality is something that we provide to government clients. So yes, this is something that can be used for within the context of an investigation where the identity of an individual is known, within the context of user de-anonymization, and within the context of complex multilateral social network analysis. Does the platform have the ability to export findings for sending to superiors and for presentations purposes, etc.? Yes, this can be exported in several formats, including a PDF, for which it would be reasonable to filter the data prior to doing that. With the de-anonymization previously mentioned, does it work for proton mail? It actually depends on the level of OPSEC of the specific individual. One can use proton mail and still attach all kinds of things to the proton mail, and then it would be possible to extract various types of data from it. If they're more careful with their OPSEC, then of course it's going to be much less easy in that respect. Does this allow the investigator to locate the geographic location of a suspect? In terms of this specific moment, geographic location, no, this is not something that we're specialized in, but it can, as a result of complex all-around research, point the investigators to various narrowing down points, such as the frequented locations or the affiliated physical addresses. Would the platform be able to access deleted posts or comments? As we're working just with live data in terms of social media, then the answer here would be no. Now, our today's webinar is coming to an end in terms of the time frame. We thank everybody for your time, and if you are interested in working or collaborating with us, then please, by all means, contact us at hello@sociallinks.io, and we'll be happy to discuss your specific use case and how our solutions can be implemented into your tasks and your processes. Yes, the recording will be made available after the webinar. About everything regarding the pricing and product roadmap, we'll be happy to discuss this with you in person, as mentioned earlier. Thank you, everybody, for all the kind words. We hope that this has been insightful for you, and we wish you a good evening or a good morning or a good remainder of the day, depending on where you are from. Thank you and goodbye.